Susie Dingle's Shadow here, and one of you wonderful viewers asked for a spring garden tour, so here it is. And really it's more like pre-spring, because in this area in the wet Pacific Northwest, you know, I don't get out here if it's wet. I don't want to work with the plants when it's wet or dig in the soil. So to me, spring starts a little later. However, there are some things to note. Both I want to show you what's blooming, but also some of the chores that are ahead of me. So let's take a walk around the garden and see what we can find. The woodland garden is starting to wake up. The maidenhair ferns are coming up, and I see a hellebore down at the base of this iron plant stand. I like to see the hydrangea blossoms that are all dried. I like to see those through the winter time. So in the very early spring, I'll come along and cut those off right above where the new growth is, right about in there. And over on the path, I think that is some geranium mycorrhizum. Let's go take a look. This is beautiful. I planted these in the last couple of years just from tiny little pieces, and they have filled out so beautifully. Now that tangled mess is going to be gorgeous, and I just take the just kind of loosen it up and pull off some of the loose leaves and so on and so forth. This is the sweet autumn clematis, and it's a lovely like a curtain here on the deck. Okay, this is looking acceptable for these wet March days. This is a variegated elderberry I planted a few years ago, and it's doing beautifully. Eventually it will get about 10, maybe 12 feet tall. And little perennials coming up. Here's some sweet Cicely. Just a lovely plant. Okay, this sword fern's looking still pretty good. I pruned it back last year, and it grew nicely. So these are 1-year-old fronds, and I like that still, but I'll probably trim them all back hard at the end of this year, or toward the beginning of next year. The bird bass survived. I like that. It's looking pretty good. Doesn't look like it's leaking at all, and the moss is so lovely, especially down here at the base. This is one of my favorite areas here, and in another month we're going to have forget-me-nots, but right now we see the columbine coming up. And these tulips actually do really well, even though it's pretty shaded in this area. Surprise patch there. And we have some more hydrangeas that I need to deadhead. Over there is a clematis montana and an akebia vine, and let's go take a look and see how they're doing. Okay, the clematis hasn't leafed out at all yet. That'll be real soon, but the akebia is known for keeping its leaves in the winter, although not always. These are pretty fresh leaves, but look at that. There we go. There's an akebia flower, and they do smell like vanilla. That's lovely. Got a lot of them. Well, we have more light back here since that branch fell down and went boom on the roof of my garage. And I'll link that video in case you didn't see it. I have to say, in the shade, this akebia is absolutely one of my favorite plants. Oh, it smells so good. Well, in the garden right now, in the woodland garden that is, the showstopper of course is this Daphne odora, and I just love it. It's can't imagine a shade garden without one in it. I love how it just cuddles around this big urn, and it's somewhat relaxed, but it also looks structural at the same time. Oh, it's just a beautiful, beautiful plant, and I wish you could smell it. Because there's so many leaves from this area, I don't always get a chance to clean them up in the fall. Well, that is one of my big chores this time of the year. If I didn't get them done, I gotta come and get all the wet stuff off. Now these kind of crept in from the strawberry ground cover that I have. And some of these I'll leave, but I don't want them to take over. So I have to go in and take care of that. But otherwise, this is looking really nice. This is, you know, a mossy patio like you'd expect. It makes the place look like it's an older, more mature garden. And I like that. Well, since that branch came down, things are really different back here. I'm gonna have to work on this significantly. But I do like this Fatsia. It's a hybrid, and look how gorgeous those leaves are, despite the winter, the hard winter that we had. And there's a hydrangea back here that is one that climbs the wall. I'll have to look up the botanical name of it. Well, here you can see how this hydrangea is clinging to this old fence. Now normally I don't like to plant things like this on any kind of structure, but this fence, the days of this fence are numbered. And so I thought, in the meantime, until it falls completely down, I might as well put something pretty on it, make it useful. Okay, now we got an Annabelle hydrangea here, and I'll just pluck off the spent blossoms on that. And here you can see we got the leaves starting. Oh, that's really lovely. Oh, it's just spring. It's just the plants are waking up, and this is one of my favorite times of the year. All right. Okay, you know, it probably even looks better on film than it does to my eye, because all I see is a big mess and projects I have to do. But perhaps on film it'll look like just a sleepy garden that's waking up. This is one of the hardy fuchsias, and they leaf out really late. So don't be surprised. Don't pull them out. Don't think they're dead. They'll just come back very late. And at the base of this coral bark maple, there's some grape hyacinth. Look at that. That's lovely. And these are gorgeous tulips. This is kind of, as I recall, kind of an apricot-y color. And back here, we have that little fern grotto, more Annabelle hydrangeas, and some camellias. So the camellia there in the corner is the one that blooms in the winter, the pink blossoms, and the hummingbirds really like that a lot. And this is one that will be blooming here, you know, in another month or two, I believe. It's a big white one. Very, very nice. This is another favorite part of the garden. It slopes down slightly. Going down. It gives it a little bit more of a cuddled in look. More secluded. And there are several ferns in here that managed to not get squished in our snow. I'll work with those. Oh yeah, okay, here's some pretty stuff. This, well, first off, there's some hellebores. Yes, right over here. And then this is cyclamen. And we'll see some blooms on that at another time. It has its leaves and then its blooms. Okay. What else? We got some stuff coming up. Ooh, there's a trillium. Okay. Trillium happening there. There'll be some bleeding hearts coming along later. And if I recall, there is also some trillium over in here. Just hasn't come up yet. Pretty sure it should. I'm sure it will. Usually we see those blooming around April. I'm surprised that one is as far along as it is. And then back over here is a sarcococa plant that is already bloomed. And some more sword ferns. Everywhere sword ferns. Now this path, and it is a path with little hills on either side, I'm going to be reworking this year because a few things. This is St. John's wort, and it was here on the property when we moved here, and I do like it in the right situation, but I need to reclaim all of this because I want to grow some more vegetables this year. Even though this is shady-ish, there's things you can grow in the shade, and I'll go over that in another video. So we'll be doing more vegetables on either side, and I'll be taking out some of these old perennials. We're coming up on the Camellia sinensis, and then there's a bay tree. Let's take a peek here though first. These are the leaves of an iris, a bearded iris, and I do love them. Look at those leaves. Look at that. How gorgeous is that? Structural. They do have to be divided though every so often, or else they'll lose their vigor, and the center will die out. So this is a good time for me to consider reworking this bed. I used to have this whole area here was nothing but a vegetable garden when this was the only space I had for it, and I grew a lot considering that it doesn't get full sun. So, you know, if times get really hard, I'm just going to convert it. Over here is a lovely Japanese maple. It's a red one. You can really see the structure this time of the year, early spring. And I like it that it's got all these little leaf buds coming out. Okay, that's part of my protecting the faucet. I had to do it in a hurry, and so sometimes I'll just wrap things in a towel, the faucet heads in a towel, and then throw whatever I have in front of it to hold the towel in place. All right, there's a tip for you. Of note, this camellia, it's a green tea plant, and you can watch the video I made on that if you're interested in how to grow your own tea. But that side is very yellow compared to the north side, the shady side. So what a difference. I'm happy to see at least it looks really healthy on this side. Oh yeah, one plant I forgot to talk about back here is this Euphorbia wolfeni. It can be a nuisance, really, because it springs up everywhere, and the sap is irritating, so you don't want to touch it when you cut these. But it's awfully pretty, and it comes up early, and it lasts a long time, and it's a very nice plant. I remember coveting this plant when I was first gardening, and there it is. Okay, prepare yourself. There's a lot of work to do back here. This is the not forgotten corner, but it's just there. Take it in. This is reality, what it's really like at Susie Dinkle's garden. This has become a place where I'm depositing all my stuff until I can figure out what to do back here. It's underneath a fir tree and is not the most hospitable place for growing things, so we'll figure it out. If I can do food back here, I will. But look at the pretty sword fern. Doesn't that look nice? That's another one that was pruned last year in the spring, and it's still looking real good. So I don't have to do that, but every couple of years. And here's my pride and joy of this area is the miner's lettuce. I started these guys from seed for a garden show, and the leftovers I planted here, and they come up all over the property. But this is a wonderful survival food and high in vitamin C and very tasty. The other option for this space underneath the fir tree is to use it for flexible picnics and putting up a tent. So for summer campouts and story time. To the left over here on this side of the fence, there's this wonderful fence wall and a mound. I had an apple tree in this area a while back, and the fir dropped a branch and split it straight in half. It was a few years old, so I was upset about that, and that was one of the reasons I put in these trellises, was to protect the apple trees that are growing underneath them. I grow a lot of self-seeding annuals, and so you never know where they're going to pop up. This is feverfew, this is foxglove, there's some probably rose campion. I can't get in that close to see, and I know there's parsley in here as well. There's not a lot of grass left. I cleared this out pretty darn well. Ooh, and over here is some sweet woodruff. Now that's not a self-seeder. That is a perennial ground cover that spreads. And I love that. That'll get fragrant white flowers here pretty soon. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as I thought. And back over along the fence line are some hellebores that I just love, and some pretty variegated iris. There we go. Very nice. This is crocosmia, spent crocosmia leaves, and it's really a thug in a way. Spreads by little corms, or yeah, corms I think it would be, like little bulbs. Okay, we'll consider you later. Never got around to painting this fence. I like rustic wood, I really do. So I wasn't like champing at the bit to do that. However, I should think about preserving it, but then, gosh, we'd lose all this cool lichen. Oh, I love that. Okay, let's go into the front, the eastern side, northeastern. Find the front gardens in part 1 of the early spring garden tour, and until next time, keep dreaming in the garden.